Let's get hopping. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this today. Hello to everyone out there. For anybody that I don't know, my name is Karuana Gatimu, and I work at Microsoft Teams Engineering. I run our customer advocacy group. And I'm going to talk with you today about some quick strategies to get value and have satisfied users through your Microsoft Teams implementation. But if you follow my work on our driving adoption blog or our adoption hub at adoption.microsoft.com, you'll know that for me, it's not about features, but about outcomes. Like, what are we really trying to help people do out there in the world? Now more than ever, it's important to be crisp and concise with folks because there's a lot of challenges in the areas that we're talking about now. People are feeling more fatigue. They have more things to balance from a work-life balance perspective. Some people are still working remotely. Others have returned to the workplace. So we're in a constant state of change more so than we've ever dealt with. And so now we have the ability to bring teams and bring some of these capabilities into the workforce in a way that can help mitigate some of that stress. And I do want to actually show this slide here really quickly for you. And it relates to how we're evolving our adoption strategy at Microsoft. And so really leading with the humans first approach. For anyone who saw some of the feature announcements and things that were happening from Microsoft Ignite, you know that Satya Nadella talked quite a bit about employee health and wellness and future integrations we're doing in Microsoft Teams around Headspace. But there are things that we can do right now on a very human level that can bring more morale to our teams, more clarity about the way they should use our products, and cut through some of the noise that they're dealing with as they're trying to navigate this time that we're dealing with right now. So prioritizing employee health and wellness is a theme that you will see coming from Microsoft more. Frankly, I couldn't be prouder of that. I'm really glad that we're taking that view because, employee morale and their ability to actually concentrate and focus is key to driving productivity and also employee retention and just the health of an organization as a whole. We're also continuing to evolve the what tool when conversation. If you've followed me for any period of time, you know that's not my favorite question. I really want to talk about the benefits you get from using technology rather than the tools themselves, but it's an important piece that folks want to know about. And so we've landed this modern collaboration architecture content on our adoption hub, and we're doing a blog series on it right now that will help people understand the productivity suite in the terms of the different kinds of productivity that they're trying to drive and collaboration that they're doing. And then lastly, of course, this is all built on top of the M365 adoption framework, which myself and others rewrote a couple years ago now. And it is reflected in our service adoption specialist certificate course, which is available currently on edX and will be moving to Microsoft Learn in January of 2021. So we have a huge ecosystem of integrated content that's now available for you. And it really all starts at adoption.microsoft.com. And I'm super proud of this, not only because it's kind of my mind child, my baby, if you will, but it's also about improving the customer experience for all of you who may be trying to drive adoption in your organizations or just trying to understand this, or maybe you're professionals in this space. Prior to the launch of this site, there were literally 15 different places you had to go to find any adoption content whatsoever. And now it all lives in this one place. And I really consider the experience today to be a beginning. It is the start of us really doing what we call adoption coherence across Microsoft 365 and beyond. And so, stay tuned in this space. If you haven't bookmarked this site, you definitely should. Now, I will call out the fact that currently the content and the downloadable materials are English only, but we're working on a localization plan to match our end user training tool, Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways, which I'll talk about in a moment, and making sure that people can really get the content that they need in those languages. We're really focused right now on the English plus 8 primary languages. And again, we're going to be matching what exists in the Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways multilingual solution. So I've switched over to the site right now. I want to do a quick demo of it so that you can understand the resources that are available to you, because as you do these steps about understanding what's next in the context of your own business, the most important thing to think about is how are you reimagining your business itself and your employee experience. That should really be, and our recommendation is that that be the focus of your next phase of planning. Being able to reimagine and ask these questions in a way that helps you use the new features of Microsoft Teams in a way that is meaningful and not simply kind of that shotgun effect of, oh, gee, we've got a lot of new features available, let's just go use them all. That is very stressful for end users, especially during this time. And so we want to make sure that people are focused on this. Now, as I mentioned, this brings together adoption content for many of your favorite products across the suite. And we've organized that content in some categories. Getting started, if you're just starting an adoption program, more deeply engaging your organization, or training users. And if you go ahead and click on one of these icons, it's going to take you into the destination page for this particular service. And it'll give you at the top for any service the top 2 assets that we'd like you to be aware of. And then you're able to click through and see the other assets that are available by this phase. So we hope that this metaphor, and as we continue to expand it across scenarios and industries, helps you to find the content that you need when you need it, depending upon what phase you happen to be in your program. And then you can apply these things to the different types of work that you need to do. Now, the other thing that I'll share with you here is if you come up to the top, the topics area, we're adding more content to on a regular basis, but accessibility, how to collaborate on documents, our core guidance for virtual events. I will pause here to talk a little bit about virtual event guidance. This is a core way that you can drive adoption in your organization and create more of a feeling of connectedness across the company that you're working with. And this is an important part of having satisfied users. Humans need to feel connected to something greater than themselves. They need to understand the ecosystem that they're working in. And so our guidance for delivering virtual events, this is the playbook that you should be referring to. And right now it addresses your basic scenarios of employee town halls, trainings, things of that nature. And we've broken the guidance down by who you are in the process of delivering an event. Are you the organizer, the producer, the IT professional, etc.? Or you can basically download the entire full playbook via a PDF here on the page. And it really starts out with some basic knowledge that everyone involved in this space should have around how to leverage events for you in Microsoft Teams. We're continuing to add new features to Microsoft Teams live events and core Teams meetings. And over time, you will see us advise you that, up to a certain amount of people, you really want to leverage a Teams meeting like we are right here, because it allows for dynamic questions. And by the way, as I go through this, I encourage you to post questions in the chat here. I'll try to make sure that has some time to answer them at the end. But that ability to interact with your audience is really important in the era of, frankly, too many virtual meetings. And so you want to differentiate your virtual events and create a sense of connectedness through your employee base by leveraging virtual events in a way that makes sense and having them be as interactive as possible. So we're really excited about this. As I mentioned, we'll be releasing an update to this to address breakout rooms and other new features, together mode, things of that nature, and meeting size increases as those features land. But these playbooks are about what's available today and how to use it, as opposed to kind of the vision of what's going to come in the future. So definitely encourage that. And the attendee and moderator and presenter handouts are really helpful for people who might be new at presenting for virtual events. And so we really want to make sure that people know that this content exists, and it is, of course, a core part of the adoption hub itself. The other piece of the Adoption Hub that's really important, and you want to be leveraging as you're thinking about how to create those satisfied folks in these next steps, is really making on-demand end user training. People today don't always have the attention span to even sit in one of my online classes. You know, Teams live training is available. It's free. It's online. And though we do have lots of people who register for that, I also find that people really need to be able to get training at the moment that they need it. You know, and I feel like that's an important piece of understanding how people are learning today. And we've done a lot of work and gotten some great research out of Learning Pathways, which, if you're not familiar with it, is a free online template that you can install into your tenant and provide end user training. And we also have an app template, so you can bring that directly into Teams, and you can customize for your own training. And this is really important. People don't necessarily want to know about every feature in Microsoft Teams or every feature in Excel or anything else. But what they really do want to know is, how do we apply those things in your particular company? And so building custom playlists in M365 Learning Pathways is a great way to help people with new employee onboarding, with staying connected to your team, with leveraging a buddy system, with helping people understand how to even get new equipment into our new reality, things of that nature. So we're really excited about this, and I wanted to show a quick demonstration of how it looks just out of the box. Really want to make it clear that this is free. This Learning Pathways template and all of it is free. And yes, it is available in English and 8 other primary languages. And we're investigating adding additional languages, but that probably won't be until next calendar year. And so what happens is, once you've installed this, you get this beautiful SharePoint site, and it's a SharePoint site. So if you wanted to brand it or skin it to match your own organization, you can certainly do that. You can change this hero in any way that you want. This is just how it comes out of the box. And out of the box, it provides you with all of the training that's available on support.office.com, plus some that we have done specially for Learning Pathways. And it does it in a playlist model. So these topics and scenarios and product areas that you see all have playlists underneath them. But you can change this if you want to. Right, so say your organization isn't using Planner yet, or isn't using Forms or Sway. You can turn those those items off and make sure that you are delivering training for what is necessary. Now, of course, we've highlighted some of the top areas, Teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint for you in dedicated pages in this modern SharePoint experience. And what's valuable about that is that you can pin a page like this inside of Teams where it's relevant. And hopefully you saw some of the announcements about SharePoint's integration into Teams with the Home app. We're really excited about that. But even today, you can pin a modern page inside of Teams with a few caveats. And so this enables you to actually surface this information, and people can come in and look at a playlist. And we find that folks do this a lot so that they can learn what they need to know when they need to know it. But also we have these areas where people have created their own playlists, like new employee onboarding is a great example. We have a Neo template that we are working on to help accelerate people, but it's just a starting point. Most people take these playlists and then customize them for their own organization. And so making sure that you have this available is really important. So take into account like how to have happy users. Make sure you're really thinking about their health and well-being. Institute meeting best practices that allow folks to have a break between meetings and make sure that they are understanding how to best use the technology by using something like Learning Pathways to provide them on-demand learning. Those are two of the key strategies that we see as really important for what is going to come next in making sure that you're getting the most out of Teams. I'm going to share these slides with all of you as well in terms of thinking about, how you approach Teams and adoption. in terms of making sure that you have a workspace. These are some best practices. So depending upon whether you're in charge of adoption in your organization or you're an end user, either way, it's important to plan teams with teams and really get to know the capabilities that exist. Chat and meeting capabilities in Teams obviously are fundamental to the area that we're in today. But as the slide says, don't overthink it. People do know how to chat. They do know how to have meetings. We can help them in that. Obviously, folks have been working remotely online for some time. But just because they had to quickly onboard to Teams doesn't mean they really understand it. So help them by giving them access to something like teamsdemo.office.com that allows them to understand what is this Teams thing really about. Because I find that many folks had to quickly onboard to Teams because of the remote work situation, but they really weren't giving any context for what Teams can do for them from a collaboration perspective or business process perspective, leveraging something like lists or forms or flow. So we have a lot of room to make sure that people are really getting value from what they're doing inside of Teams itself. And they usually find that when they actually run a project in there. And I always encourage people to pin things in Teams, use SharePoint underneath the covers and as a communication method in Teams, and do that conversation in the channel. Because people have a tendency to leverage one-on-one or one-to-many chat too much in Teams, and then it becomes unmanageable, right? It's not like Outlook where you have rules about how you can organize your incoming information. Chat can be very overwhelming to people who aren't used to that metaphor. But having the conversation in the channel, in the team, around the project you're working on drives transparency, inclusion, and clarity at a time where we need a lot of those three things. So running those projects in Teams, leveraging planners, soon to become tasks for Teams, list templates and other things will allow folks to understand the value of why it matters. One of the reasons that we have a page on the adoption site about document collaboration is that we have plenty of users who really don't understand the power of cloud collaboration. They're still emailing around that spreadsheet. I often tell people that my life's work has been in vain because I cannot get people to stop emailing around that spreadsheet. And I really want them to, because I want them to save it in the files area in Teams, which is in SharePoint, so that everybody can be working on the same file. It's simple things like that that we often miss that people don't understand. And so helping them to understand that why saving a file in Teams matters, why not emailing it around is useful. Certainly you can use a cloud attachment in Outlook for your files, and that's perfectly valid. But I'm talking about actually attaching that item, you know, from a C drive or from some local location that can easily get forked. So help people get their workspaces set up properly, leveraging all the goodness across Microsoft 365 and Teams is super useful. I will make mention of the fact that we've been engaged in rolling out tasks for Teams for some time. The current MC Post announcement about this, I think, says it would be 100% in September. It is October, and we're not at 100% yet, but we are on track to deliver tasks and Teams 100% by the end of this month. And that is a really important thing to integrate into your project sites. Just a simple way to track tasks in a way that where, especially when you don't need to necessarily automate them as you can with the templates and lists, tasks and Teams is a great way to leverage that power of Planner on the back end. And so if you're interested in that space, I have some other materials available on that in my Driving Adoption blog and through my Worldwide Champions program, which I invite all of you to join to get those free training materials. So once you've really thought about making sure that you understand these basic principles of, you know, empowering you, think about the health and wellness of your employees, empower them with on-demand training, helping them to run projects and teams. You can always take it a step further and help them identify by their particular area of practice scenarios that they can improve by using Teams. And this is really what I call an aha moment. right? And we've had these in SharePoint for years. We've had them in other areas like Power Platform and Power Automate and what have you. But this is when people's eyes light up and they're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. And so thinking about the different types of projects that can be done and having an optimal workspace. Here's a great example for a marketing organization. You can add Creative Cloud. You can add different types of apps and bots here. You can do the same thing for sales. Using Power BI directly in the channel and continuing to leverage those capabilities right in the channel itself. Same thing for finance. These are just different examples of the types of apps that you can integrate into a team. And this is where the rubber meets the road. Teams, as it comes to you out of the box, is a great and powerful thing. Teams and other apps, applications, whether designed by Microsoft or some of our partners, is transformational. But people need guidance about how to configure those things for their particular scenarios and for their particular professional areas and ways that work. Maybe some of these examples I'm showing aren't things that are licensed in your organization. You can use something different. There's a lot of apps that are available in our app catalog, and we're adding more every day. So really helping people to bring this together in the true hub for teamwork, leveraging the power of Microsoft 365 and our app ecosystem is what will bring this alive for people. And then all of a sudden you'll have people telling you, oh, now I get it. Right now I get it. And when they want to learn more, they simply go to Learning Pathways inside of Teams and poof, they can teach themselves more. This makes a huge difference in terms of realizing the value of what we're actually talking about. Until people see it in their own lives in a scenario that matters to them, it's all kind of just talk. They really need to see it for themselves in ways that matter and that are relevant in their own scenarios. So depending upon your role in an organization, maybe you're a champion, build some demos, right? Use that. It's a best practice as a champion, as I've done for many years. Build some real world demos that you can show people a visual of. It makes all the difference in people understanding what you're talking about in the context of what matters to them. Because one thing I found for sure in the months since March is that being concise is really important. Not giving people too much information, but what they need that will help them in their scenario is really important. And frankly, not wasting people's time with stuff and fluff that they don't need to talk about right now. They just don't have the emotional or mental bandwidth for it. So I think it's really important to respect the time of the people that we're here to serve and give them things that they can action that will actually transform their day-to-day experience, just like streamlining processes across M365 and lighting these things up inside of Teams. And that is what will really help people, something simple, even like requesting time off or, changing the way you do request a new piece of equipment in this remote world. It can be something really simple, but if it helps somebody in their day have one less thing to be stressed about, then we've won, right? Then we've done our job to really help people. So I know that I'm almost at the end of my time. I certainly hope that you will join us on adoption.microsoft.com and join us in the Driving Adoption community. Becoming a champion and being involved in our community is a fun thing, we hope anyway, for people. We have monthly meetings and we share information on topics just like this and additional strategies and tactics for driving adoption across Microsoft 365, not just in the Teams space, but around creating a modern intranet, around security best practices, and these things like transferring and really improving on business practices. These are the tracks that we have of training in our Worldwide Champion program, and it's free. So, events like this are so important to getting information out, and we always want to support them and then also invite people over in our community so that you can get your questions answered as you work in this space. I do see someone's hand up, but Michael, did you want to say something?
I missed the hand up. I just wanted to say thank you. I really enjoy every time you talk about your baby, and I've seen the growth of the adoption part. So it's really your baby, and it's incredible to see this platform available for everyone. That helps a lot for so many projects to understand there's more than just the technical part. Excellent.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. I very much appreciate being here.